Hi, everyone. I'm Antone Gonsalves with Tech Target News, and I'm here today with Paul and Bob from Enterprise Strategy Group. Today, we're going to discuss the VMware Explore conference that ended last week. We're going to cover what we consider the most important elements from that conference. VMware talked an awful lot about making this transition, this transformation as a company from becoming a virtualization vendor to a multi-cloud infrastructure provider. So, Paul, do you agree that that is the transition they need to make? And since they're adopting that strategy, what are the possible gotchas, the possible problems that VMware will have to solve in order to be successful?
Anton, thank you. Great question. It really is an exciting time with VMware and what's going on in the industry. We're seeing this in our research as well. Over 80% of organizations are running their production workloads in the cloud. We also see that over 89% of organizations are running on two or more CSPs, cloud service providers. So it's logical that VMware is looking at taking their approach from the data center to move to the cloud and move to a multi-cloud approach as well. But they're also have really have kind of bifurcated the business too. The infrastructure side on the cloud, but also the developer side. So they introduced, advancements with Tanzu. They've introduced advancement and new technologies such as ARIA that have technical previews, doing cloud management, cloud monitoring across multiple clouds. So with that, I think that VMware is doing a great job at putting that vision forward to not only manage the infrastructure, but also manage the environment as they're moving forward for developers as well.
Hmm. Now, VMware has been known for a while, Paul, to be an expensive vendor. They charge a lot for their technology. Could the price of their technology provide an opening for competitors?
That's a good question. VMware has definitely a competitive landscape. I think most notably, one of the main competitors in the space would be Red Hat OpenShift and having OpenShift manage that environment. But we also have to keep in mind that VMware, especially on the developer side, almost 80+% of their technologies for Tanzu and ARIA are built on top of open source projects. So they are working with this community so people can roll their own. However, they manage it themselves, right? So that becomes a kind of a burden on the organization that's running it. So basically, having that ability to offload that to a vendor like VMware really has that competitive advantage. I would also say that using individualized technologies like maybe in AWS Lambda, that will really give you that siloed approach. I think that unless your infrastructure or your organization is running directly on one of those environments, you really have to look at it, what's best for that business and what's going to happen for that business and the ecosystem around that business.
Okay, thank you. Bob, I guess this next question is for you. VMware CEO Raghuram made a point to say that networking presents the biggest opportunity for VMware. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think it's a very interesting question to surface, and that clearly networking is going to be a very important piece of multi-cloud environments, just due to the nature of the fact that everything needs to be connected. You're going to have multiple public clouds, multiple on-premises data centers, edge locations, not to mention all the remote employees. We're seeing and talking to them about them being able to expand their use of SD-WAN to provide that direct internet access. So home workers don't have to hairpin through data centers to go to cloud and run through the security stack. The other aspect of it that we've seen that they announced today was the Project Monterey, which is essentially the smart NICs and the DPUs running on organization servers that actually leverage the VMware operating system, right? vSphere 8 goes into vCenter. So organizations can offload the network and security services from the CPU onto these DPUs, freeing up those CPU resources so you can consolidate the number of servers you have. You can improve the performance of those applications running on those servers, and you can actually, reduce latencies and things like that, especially if you were previously using appliance-based network and security services. This was the technology that first came about with AWS Nitro cards that they were using internally and not sharing. And now Monterey is using it not only with Pensando and NVIDIA, but also with Intel to provide a range of these cards and working through their distribution channels like Dell and HPE and others. And then specifically to the multi-cloud, they announced a couple projects, North Star and Project Watch. Project North Star is specifically, it's going to be a SaaS-based, basically multi-cloud networking and security services. And then the Project Watch is going to be looking at delivering those, I guess, multi-cloud app-to-app policy controls as well. So they're specifically honing in on the services that organizations will require when they move to that multi-cloud environment.
So it sounds like VMware has a lot of depth in their offerings that a competitor would have to work pretty hard to match.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point, especially from the network virtualization side, right? The NSX technology that they brought about in the SD-WAN integrated into by incorporating this technology into the SmartNICs, by building out, Project North Star and things like that for multi-cloud networking. They're essentially leveraging the same tools that organizations have been using to cover a much greater area. So it drives that operational efficiency, which is going to be so critical to organizations that want to deliver the performance in these much more distributed, much more complex environments. So that's really their biggest advantage, is that these operating teams in whether it be network, security, et cetera, already are used to using the technologies in the data center. And now it's just about extending them across the cloud and multiple clouds.
Got it. Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate your time and your expertise, and hopefully our viewers will also. For more information, once again, you can click on the link above or below. Until then, thank you very much.